Welcome, darling. Please, come in and make yourself comfortable in the parlor, and allow me, your hostess Darilli, to entertain you for a time. Now, looking at me, you can probably tell that I am not exactly what one would consider the partying sort, unless you include the posh dinner parties I throw here at the manor. Thus, the following situation is not something I would ever have to worry about. But that's just me. What about you? What about your friends? Or even your children? I suppose stories like this are exactly why some parents worry so over even their adult children's activities. Oh, you'll see what I mean soon enough. In this tale entitled, Today, My Hangover Turned Into a Nightmare, by The Big Spook. I woke up this morning with a splitting headache. I reached over and grabbed the cup on my nightstand, taking it down in one gulp, spilling water all down my face and bare chest. 10:22 a.m. What the fuck happened last night? In a disoriented state, I flipped off the covers and stumbled my way to the bathroom door. My dick was as hard as a rock while I leaned over the toilet, bracing myself with one hand on the wall ahead, trying to accurately take the longest piss of my life. I flushed it down and hobbled over to the sink to splash some cold water on my face to wash the crust out of my eyes. The runoff from my face was tinted a crimson red as it spiraled down the drain. Looking up into the dirty mirror, my eyes widened. My face was covered in what looked like blood. My nostrils flared as I sucked in a deep breath of air through my nose. It wasn't broken. I checked every inch of my body to search for any cuts or scrapes. Nothing. In the process of that, I accidentally whacked my hand against the bathroom counter, and I winced in pain. Looking down at my hands, I noticed my knuckles were painted a dark purple. My right pinky finger was crooked, and I yelped when I tried to make a tight fist. Did I get in a fight? My mind drew a blank as I searched every crevice of my memory, hoping for some sort of recollection of the night before. I couldn't remember a thing up until a certain point. My last moment of clarity was when Brett and I had arrived at the abandoned warehouse party. I took a shower to rinse off whatever funk I had on me from the night before. When I got back to my room, I spotted my phone. There was a blinking blue light that indicated I had a message. It was from Brett. "Sorry, dude, I had to leave. My sister's babysitter had to go home all of a sudden, so I had to watch her. Did you hook up with that hot goth chick or what?" I scratched my head in confusion. Goth chick? I shot him back a response and went about getting dressed. What goth chick? I don't remember a thing, dude. I must have gotten trashed. My stomach started to growl. I must have been pretty hungry, and my head was still pounding. So I thought some breakfast could help cure my hangover. I stepped outside only to see my car wasn't in the driveway. Fuck, I said to myself. I must have taken an Uber home. After calling an Uber, I had them drop me off at the warehouse where the party was. If I didn't still have the address saved in my Google Maps, I probably would have never found it. We arrived at our destination, and I looked around the parking lot for a bit. Sure enough, there was my car. I jumped in the driver's seat and noticed it was pulled all the way forward. Strange. I adjusted the seat when I felt something soft underneath. When I pulled it out, I noticed it was a fuzzy scarf. The scarf was black with red stripes running down it, kind of like a candy cane. The scarf smelled terrible, like a swamp. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. "Hey, I had fun with you last night. Want to get together soon?" It was from an unfamiliar number. I paused for a moment. I really wish I could have remembered who this was, but I'm guessing it was the girl Brett was talking about. I didn't bother sending a response. I started up that car, getting ready to pull out when I placed my hands on the steering wheel. My hands were coated in some partially dried goo. When I looked to see what it was, I saw it was more blood. What the fuck? This time I shouted. I jumped out of the car. Fear and confusion washed over me when I saw a trail of blood leading up to my driver's side door. I began to panic. What did I do last night? Who was in my car? Who did this blood belong to? I followed the blood trail back to the warehouse entrance door. Pulling it open, I was greeted with an odor so foul that it made me puke. When I looked down at the pile of vomit that sat there at my feet, my eyes widened in horror. It was blood. More blood. It took a few minutes to regain my composure. All the time, I thought it must have been a stomach ulcer from all the drinking. I did my best not to think about it. Setting my illness aside, I ventured into the warehouse. It was incredibly dark inside, and I had to use the light of my phone to navigate through the unsettling hallway. I had hoped that retracing my steps from last night would bring back bits and pieces of my memory, but that never happened. When I passed through the door to the main room, my phone buzzed again. I let the door go, and it slammed behind me. I read the message.
So, you're gonna read my message and not reply? Fuck you!
It was from the girl. My phone buzzed again before I could close the message.
I see you! Wink.
What the fuck? I thought to myself. That's when I locked the screen and shined the light into the room ahead. The light reflected against a layer of solid liquid that coated the floor. I was so distracted earlier that I didn't even notice the sounds until just then. Almost like rainfall, but slower. You know the constant drip of water you get from a leaky faucet? Imagine that, but 1,000 of them leaking above your head, like a patchy roof on a stormy night. I stepped further into the room as my sneakers splashed in the puddle below. It was so dark that even with my light I couldn't tell what the substance was until I felt a droplet on the top of my head. I reached up and felt the thick dot of liquid in my ear. Bringing my hand down in front of the light, I saw that it was blood. That's when my reality shattered like a brick through a glass window. I shined my light above. Hundreds of bodies hung from the rafters. A swarm of corpses swayed back and forth as they were hung by their feet. A huge gash had been made in their throat as blood slowly dripped onto the floor below. My adrenaline kicked in, and I spun on my heels to bolt toward the door. That's when I slipped. My head slammed hard against the ground and I blacked out. I woke up on a leather couch in nothing but my boxers. The flickering candle on the table beside me dimly lit the room with a menacing orange glow. My skin peeled off the couch like a band-aid as I sat up. My clothes were neatly folded, sitting on a chair in the corner of the room. I stood up and quickly made my way over to the clothes and started putting on my pants. That's when I saw the stack of Polaroids sitting next to my shirt and socks. I flipped through the photos and saw that they were of me. My arms were strung around the shoulders of a girl with short cropped black hair, heavy eye makeup, and that black and red scarf. Another photo was of us kissing, while my hands were resting on her waist. I also noticed that I was wearing the outfit I had on last night, and the crowd of partygoers in the background. They were taken in the warehouse. They were taken last night. The photos went from innocent pictures to horrifying mementos. The girl and I were standing over what looked like an unconscious body. My foot heavily sat on their chest. Next were shots of several bodies, all scattered along the warehouse floor. There was a timeline of shots of us taking turns repeatedly stabbing the innocent partiers. I felt sick. I didn't want to continue, but I couldn't stop. It continued with photos of me stringing up the bodies one by one along the rafters, then slicing each of their throats. The look on my face was the most disturbing. I looked as if I were enjoying it. A huge, ugly grin spread across my face. The camera's flash caused my eyes to glow a sinister red. The lock on the door to the room clicked, and I was frozen in place. A figure entered the room, and I instantly knew who it was.
Hi, honey,
She said casually as she closed the door behind her. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. Every muscle in my body just locked in place as I stood there, paralyzed. Slack-jawed and half-dressed, I was a prisoner of my own fear.
I see you found our souvenirs. I had so much fun last night. We should do it again,
She said as she swiped her bangs out of her face. What the hell did you do? I shouted, still frozen in place. Her face changed from a sinister smile to a look of innocent confusion.
What? Don't you remember? How could you forget a romantic night together? You're so mean.
She started to cry. I could tell this girl was a fucking maniac. I had to get away from her, but she blocked my way to freedom. Then, she took another step toward me.
Oh, I guess you might have had too much to drink, huh? That's okay. You see, last night was just magical. I hosted the party, and I just planned on drugging everyone and killing them. You became the exception. I liked you a lot. And when you caught me looking at you from across the room and spoke to me, I knew it was true love.
The sinister smile crawled back onto her face.
I gave you something that would help you stay awake through the drugs I put in the keg. I didn't want you to pass out like the others. And you didn't. When you saw that everyone had fallen asleep, you helped me kill every last one of them. It was your idea to hang them from the ceiling. You're so smart. After that, we made passionate love right here on the couch. It was my first time, and it was everything I dreamed of. I love you so much.
I felt sick to my stomach. How could I have done such a thing? I started to see stars. My legs became weak and I collapsed to the floor. That's when I saw it. My cell phone. It was under the chair. It must have fallen down there and she didn't notice. Right as I look over, it started to vibrate. I quickly reached over and pressed the answer button, but I left it where it was. I just hoped that it was someone who could help me.
Oh, honey, are you okay? Do you need some water?
I don't need a fucking thing. Get the hell away from me, you fucking monster, I shouted. Her face changed from happy to confused to furious. It was something I'd never seen before. I knew that I was in danger. This girl was beyond psychotic.
Oh, so you think you can just fuck me and run? Is that it? Do you think that I'm just some sort of fucking skank?
She clenched her fists and made her way toward me. By this time, I had edged my way to the corner of the room, still sitting on the floor. She came at me with full force. I stuck my bare foot out to defend myself, but she pulled a razor blade from her back pocket and sliced the bottom of my foot wide open. Blood shot out and spattered across her face. She stepped back and ran her tongue across her upper lip and smiled.
I thought you were special. That's okay. I guess I'll have to make do with what I got.
She came at me again, this time holding the blade out in front of her, charging at full speed. I scurried along the wall, making my way to the other side of the room. She slipped in the blood on the floor while trying to change direction. Now's my chance. I ran full speed without looking back, burst through the door and down the hallway. My heart raced as it pumped adrenaline-fueled blood through every vein in my body. I had to hide. I slipped through a partially open door, hiding against the back of it.
Baby, where did you go?
Her voice echoed down the corridor. I covered my mouth in an attempt to mute my breathing. I knew she was going to find me. Just as her footsteps came closing in on me, I heard a shout. I heard a loud bang. and the sounds of several sets of boots pounding against the concrete floor. "Police, freeze!" Within just a few seconds, the sound of gunshots filled the hallway. My ears were ringing as I could hear the sound of the girl's body hitting the floor. That's when I revealed myself behind the door. The nightmare was over. My captor's body lied there, lifeless, in a contorted pose on the cold concrete floor. I led the police to the room where she kept me, gathering my clothes and phone. That's when I noticed the picture spilled on the ground underneath my shirt. While they weren't looking, I managed to pick them up off the ground and discreetly stuffed them into my back pocket. That was pretty much it. I'm having a hard time recovering from the whole thing. They took me to the hospital in an ambulance, and I saw that they had already started pulling down the hanging corpses and were bagging them up. At the hospital, they bandaged my foot and asked me a few questions. I told them I didn't remember much, other than that I left early because I got too drunk and came back to retrieve my car. That's when she took me captive. Apparently, they found an indescribable amount of formaldehyde, methamphetamines, and heroin in the warehouse. I guess that explains a lot. Apparently, the call that I received was from Brett. He was getting worried that he hadn't heard back from me in a while. When I answered the phone, he heard what was going on and immediately called the cops. If it weren't for him, I'd probably be dead right now. As for me, I'm writing this to you now as I'm going to burn these fucking pictures in my backyard. I don't ever want to remember what happened today. I'm just glad I can't remember what went on last night. I'll leave you with one piece of advice, though. Don't go to any warehouse parties. You never know what you could get yourself into.
He forgot all the best parts. What a shame. I suppose I'll have to wait for another psycho to come along and show him the joys of this side of things. No matter. There's no rush. We do not lack for company, now do we? I may not be able to offer you such festivities as in today's story, but I do hope that you enjoyed my hospitality anyway, such as it is. As always, you have my deepest gratitude for stopping by. And, of course, I wish you safe journey, friend.